Italy, once the center of the Roman Empire, this is a land rich with history. Their racing heritage is no different, and Imola has seen motorsports of all types for over 60 years. Today, we dip our toes into that history by taking these classic Lotus cars onto the track. But with this being the modern layout, will anyone be caught out by its tricky chicanes? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the Lotus 49 World Cup, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Johan, I have to confess, I didn't think I'd like this track initially, but once I drove it, I actually think it's one of my favorites to lap. Tell us a little bit more about Imola.
Well, let's start by using the official title once, because it just sounds so beautiful. Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, named after the founder of the famous Italian car manufacturer, is one of the newest iRacing editions. But like you say, Joe, in real life it has seen its share of history. Imola was conceived all the way back in 1953 and has been quite synonymous with the dangers that racing brings. The track used to be a semi-permanent venue without any chicanes. So just imagine that the run from the last corner Rivazza all the way to turn 7 Tosa was flat out. But 20 years later, the circuit mellowed out a little and several chicanes were added as it became a permanent circuit. And this made the track slightly safer, but didn't take away the teeth of the beast. The most infamous corner of all was the Tamburello, a blisteringly quick left-hander where big names in Formula 1 had accidents, like Piquet, Berger and of course Ayrton Senna. After these incidents, the track received a new layout in 1995, which was refined in 2007. This gave the 4.9 km and 17-turn layout we see today. In the Lotus 49, I feel it is one of the harder tracks to drive. The surface is slick and combined with bendy straights, it's difficult to get the power down. But this is also important as drivers will reach 300 km an hour going into turn 2 if they manage a good exit out of the last corner. Imola offers a big challenge for our drivers, and to see how they will conquer this racing coliseum today, let's hop on board our Lotus 49 for a lap around Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari.
All right, we've got Ben Zocco in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Imola. Coming down the front stretch, even though Tamburello is a good passing opportunity, the long braking zones in this car means you have to deal with a kinked entry. That just ups the difficulty of an already tricky 3-apex chicane. Try to hug the inside of the second apex to open up the final one, because in the 49, it's not quite flat out. From there, it's a short stretch up to Villeneuve. With its fast entry on the first half, drivers will really be testing the limits and the balance of the car. Switch sides quickly on the exit to line up Tosa. This hairpin will really reveal who is good with their right foot, because finding traction off the corner will make a big difference up this steep hill. And again, unique to the 49, the crest makes the car light, so with a slight curve, you'll be lifting early to set yourself up for Piratella. Getting the nose down to the apex of this bend is deceptively hard. Expect a lot of drivers to be a little wide mid-corner. Then you plunge down into the valley of Acqua Minerale. You're braking through the first half, trying to get the car settled, and then really blowing up for the second half. Be sure not to go wide on the exit of this corner, because iRacing gives you a slowdown penalty if you go too far off track. This is another critical corner exit, because up next is the Alta chicane, where drivers will often be on the attack. Thing is, I wouldn't recommend going through here too wide because of how narrow and slow the chicane is. From there, you put your right foot down yet again and follow the track downhill towards Ravazza. The downhill braking means that you'll be getting to the binders a little early, or else find yourself taking a trip through the gravel. There's just a small squirt of the power into the second part of this corner, but you really need to focus on your run out of here. The pit straight is the longest acceleration zone of the track, so hesitate to the power and you're going to get mobbed by everyone behind you. But hopefully, you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Imola. There's a lap around Imola. Now, drivers are out currently trying to get their qualifying laps in, and as they get some times on the board, let's take a stop and look at the points championship, starting out with the drivers' championship. Mick Claridge leads, but you might notice a few changes. Well, that's because we have now started to add drop weeks. The first of the drop weeks has been added, and that closes up the gap. Dudignon only 5 behind Mick Claridge. Now, the interesting thing, look at Billy Bob Wright, up 3 positions with the drop weeks. His consistency really helps out there, but he's a long ways back from the battle for the lead. And then Morrison and Zocco round out our top 5. We also have a sort of amateurs championship. What's the F2 standings looking like, Johan?
Yeah, in the Formula 2 Championship, Hideki Koivisto won last time around the Phillip Island, and look at him. He gained 2 positions on his rivals and is currently leading with 40 points. But Eugenio Massa isn't that far behind, and will he able to grab back the P1 position in his home race? We'll see today. Andrew Eng also dropped down 1 position, 6 points trailing to Koivisto in P3, and Barry West and Don Good are currently in P4 and P5.
And of course, they have the Constructors' Cup, which in this case is essentially a Nations' Cup that they compete for. Now, the United Kingdom leads the way with Mick Claridge's dominance, Dudignon being the only one really contributing for France. But take a look at Finland. A number of drivers really have been carrying the torch down there. Unhola, not the least of which, has come to the fore and really shown he's had pace lately. United States and Australia are sitting in 4th and 5th. There is also the race details, just in case there might be somebody watching that hasn't seen a Lotus 49 race before. Johan, what are we looking at today?
We are looking at round 6 of the 12th round championship today at Imola. As you can see, 2 watermarks behind it. That means that there are 2 drop weeks this season. One of these is already calculated in the points. We will race for 18 laps today. 18 times the drivers will lap Imola. The setups are open, so that means that they can twist the knobs, the screws in their car to make it just to their liking. And you see a different scoring table just below it, as we have a new scoring table this season.
Well, up at the top was Unhola just until moments ago. Matt Wood put in the fastest time, and now Dave Price goes up to the pole. Haven't seen Mick Claridge get a lap in yet.
Now, McLaren is currently going through Rivazza in his lap. I think 10 more seconds and then he'll probably put in his first lap time. But I have to say that lap time from Dave Price, Joe, is quite impressive. He's 7/10 clear of Matt Wood at 39. That's not a lap time I've seen a lot in practice so far. And as we see McLaren going over the start-finish line at the moment, well, he's able to beat that 39 and by quite a margin, 4/10 in front of Dave Price at the moment.
Oof. So Mick Claridge up in the ante even more as we wait for at least one more big name to get time in. Ove Trangarade is currently coming out of Alta down towards Rivazza himself. Now, I'm looking at it, looks like he had a 1X on his first lap because he does not have a time there. Oh, that could hurt him. This is going to be one timed lap for the Scandinavian to get it done as he comes out of the second apex of that final corner, gets the power down. Is this one going to be clean? Of course, he would know by now, unless he's just out there getting warmed up. He crosses the line. What's his time going to be? Good enough for third. Saved by the bell.
Just 200ths of a second behind Dave Price. Not enough to slot in professional first row yet, but good enough for P4. Now, one thing you just mentioned, Joe, is that 1X off track that they had. It's quite easy to get off tracks here. So it's something that not only drivers have to keep in mind during qualifying, but also in the race they have to keep that in mind, because before you know it, you might have collected 17 of those incident points and you'll be automatically disqualified.
We're breezing through, looking at a few of our drivers. This is Raymond Smith, the Canadian, coming around to finish his second lap. I also noticed Tapani Linuluoto coming over here from the Camel Series. I think he's coming across for his second lap, currently sitting in 6th, and he improves up to 5th. A nice top 5 for the car with the number 1 on his machine today.
Yeah, I've seen Tapani in the recent weeks. He has, I think last week around, he was somewhere between P8, P9. So with a P5 position at the moment at Imola, he's improving quite a bit compared to last week. But still, he's 1 second behind Mick Claridge. Mick Claridge put a new time in at 38.9. That nets him 7/10 clear over the rest of the field almost. That's an insane lap time for Mick Claridge.
Mick is trying to do all he can to take this championship by the neck. As we watch Andrew Ang coming out of Alta right now. He's got both of his laps in at a 1:43.6 being his fastest, which is the slowest that's got a time on the table. And I think Don Good and Johnny Bell both off track right now. So he is going to be the slowest of the cars that gets a time in, it looks like, today. Just about 50 seconds left. I see Tony Teolis has yet to put a time in. Let's wait for him to try and improve, sitting just 1 spot above Ang in 16th as he streaks around that crooked front stretch. Can he improve? The answer is no. Tony's going to be no better than 16th.
Yeah, I think he had an off track in that last lap because the last lap wasn't counted. Currently trying to control his car going into the Tamburello corner. But yeah, a new name, one of the newer names that we've seen this season, currently slotting in P16.
And that's going to be all the cars out there that can get a time in. So let's go through our starting grid. The pole is going to be Mick Claridge by some margin. And then Matt Wood will be starting in second. Dave Price starts row 2 in third with Ove Trangrade on the outside of him in fourth. Tapani Linuluoto starts in 5th, followed by Tommy Unholo, who is looking very good in practice on race pace. He starts 6th. Benjamin Zoko will begin in 7th, the Australian flanked by Neil Kemp in 8th. Then in 9th, it'll be Richard Morin, and P10 goes to old-timer Gary Teal.
In P11, we have the Australian Edward van Velsen. He's 1 position in front of Raymond Smith. The first driver in row 7 is Simon J. Shaw. That's next to home driver Eugenio Massa. Hideki Kofisto, the leader of the Formula 2 Championship, is in row 8, next to Tony Teolis. Andrew Ang comes home in P17 in front of Don Good and Johnny Bell, who haven't set a lap time during qualifying.
Healthy 19-car field out there, which means one thing we haven't talked about is traffic. That could come into play. It can be a little difficult here to get out of the way with not too many long straights, the main one being right here on the pit straight, where it's the longest section they have. They can stay flat out. As we watch the cars get gridded up, making sure they have the correct setup in the car, checking all the last-minute things before we go racing today for 18 laps here in round 6. With all the cars out there, the engines start to rev as the lights come up. Green flag is out, and Matt Wood does not get a good start at all, but a phenomenal start from Mick Claridge, who already starts to pull away up the inside. Into second comes the car of Dave Price. Down into Tamburello they go.
Yeah, Dave Price immediately trying to take that second position from Matthew Wood, but Matthew Wood doesn't give him that. They're going side by side through the Tamburello corner, and on the exit there, Matt Wood has a little bit more drive. They're still side by side, so close in the Alta, and Dave Price has to go through the gravel, loses spot to Trangerate.
That's going to check things up behind him as 2 spots go away, possibly 3. Oh, we got a car on the outside. Tapani Luoto recovers back on track, but look at the shakeup up at the top. It's going to be Claridge, Wood, and Trangerade, your top 3 at the moment.
Alina Luoto had to check up a little bit behind over Trangerate and just had outbraked himself because of that, and had to resort by sending his car into the gravel.
Then Zoko in a side-by-side battle with Gary Teal. He gets around the outside of Aquaman Arali. Not often you see that. Brave stuff. And still slowing up Zoko. Under attack now from Van Velsen into Alta. He's going to try to go the long way around and backs out of it.
Yeah, it's a difficult corner to make a pass here, but the exit is also important going to Rivazza, because you really want to be perfect there, so you have that good line through the really long straight going over the start-finish straight. Edwin van Velsen staying a little bit behind him, but look at Mick Claridge up front. He has over 2-second lead already on Matt Wood.
All that battling that Wood had certainly has helped out. Now I think we got a replay here. I believe this is for Tapani. Here we are into Villeneuve, and you're going to see the incident into Tosa here, up around the outside, trying to take advantage of the slow Price. Just went a little too wide. Now, it almost looked like a little bit of contact. Let's get the onboard here and see. Riding just over his shoulder. 3 wide. Ooh, it was very close. I don't think they quite touched, though. So we are already on lap 2. Wood 2.8 seconds back and under threat for second place from Ove Trangerade.
Yeah, Ove Trangerade has really put the pressure on Matt Wood for now. He seems a little bit quicker in his longer runs, and he probably wants to go past him as soon as possible if he even has the hope for P1 today and get close to Mick Claridge. Tommy and Hola isn't that far away either, so once Matt Wood and Ove Trangerade start battling, I think that Tommy will be able to get close real quickly. Matt Wood probably might have a slowdown penalty there because his exit is a little bit slow.
He was all out of sorts, and now Trangerade has Unhola all over the back of him because he had to take avoiding action, goes defensive, and he slides way to the outside of the gravel of Rivazza. Unhola, 2 positions in 1 lap. That gets him up into second place.
Beautiful driving from Unhola, really just capitalizing on the mistakes of others, and I see Matt Wood just falling down a little bit more. I really think he had a slowdown penalty. Another driver who profited from that is Dave Price. Dave Price going up to P4.
A good eye on that as Wood goes incredibly slow down the front stretch. Neil Kemp gets himself into the top 5. Not bad, having started 8th in this race.
No, especially, but there's several drivers who made up a lot of positions. Gary Teal is another one of those drivers who's in a heavy battle with Benjamin Soko. Teal currently in P7, but yeah, look behind him. Benjamin Soko and Van Velsen are putting heavy pressure on him.
Oh, it gets so tight into Villeneuve, but they managed to hold it side by side. Teal still ahead of Zoko. Looking to the inside, down into Tosa. He's going to have the preferred line, but can he get the drive off the corner? That's so important here. Up to Piratella. He does not. Gary Teal absolutely stretches away.
Gary Teal tried to cut Benjamin Soko a little bit off on the entrance of Tosa, but because he had the outside line, he had more momentum and could go earlier on the grass. And behind Benjamin Soko and Lina Luoto touch each other. Now that doesn't think... I don't think either of them has damage. Lina Luoto actually manages to get that pass, but that could have been real different, Joe.
Oh, it is frantic here in the mid-pack. Zoko loses another spot because here comes Van Velsen. in the mix, slicing through, up into Alta. Number of cars battling here. Linelotto leads the train of Van Velsen, Zoko, Morin, Shaw, Koivisto, and Smith, all together down to 14th.
It's a beautiful battle, beautiful group as well. Now Edward van Velsen almost capitalized, being able to get past Tapani Linelotto, who was a little bit loose through Ravaggi. Edward van Velsen is way cleaner through there. But does he get a better exit? It seems like he has a slightly better exit. And this is a really long straight, Joe, where you can maybe put a move on him in Tamburello.
Let's stay on this, but you saw at the top of your screen, fastest lap just went to Mick Claridge. He increases his gap over the field as everybody breaks down into Tamburello, though catching up to Gary Thiel, bringing him back into the fight. And while this is happening, we have a big moment going up in second place as Dave Price sends it into the tires. Oh, he was doing so good here at the start of the race.
Painful. Exactly, Joe. He was doing so good, and he just tried to slide his car over the curbstones to get as much momentum as he could, and just couldn't control the slide and send it into the wall.
That sends him all the way down to 17th, unfortunately. Definitely driver error. Wasn't anywhere near to anybody else. Oh, God, that has got to be frustrating for him. So that changes our top order yet again. It's still Claridge, Unhola, Trangrade, our top three, but now Neil Kemp is up to 4th even, and Wood has recollected himself into 5th and is challenging Kemp.
Yeah, you're saying Tommy Unhola is 2nd and Over Trangrade is 3rd. Well, not for much longer if it's Over Trangrade who has to say, because he's putting a lot of pressure on his Finnish rival. He just tried to move in the Variante Alta, couldn't make it stick, but going to Rivazza, he probably will try to get a better exit and try and move into the Tamburello corner.
Does not look very good out of that final turn. So Unhola will stay safe for now. Who says you can't race hard in this car? My goodness, we've seen some fantastic stuff between drivers all throughout the field. About the only driver that really hasn't seen any action, as we see a bit of a defensive move from Unhola into the first chicane, is Mick Claridge, who and now is up to 6.7 seconds over this battle for second that we're seeing.
P4 has just been taken over again by Matt Wood. Neil Kemp went a little bit loose into the Rivazza corner, lost momentum, lost drive, and Matt Wood could make an easy pass there. So Neil Kemp is back to P5.
Nice job by the Lotus 79 driver, who's really come and invaded with a big force here in the 49s. And Ove Trangrade has now gotten closer to Tommy Unhola as they climb up the hill towards Piratella. Down to 0.2 of a second. Wasn't able to do anything through Tosa. Just waiting patiently now, poking and prodding, hoping to find a hole in the armor.
Yeah, I don't think Over Trangrade has the pace to catch up to Mick Claridge, so the last driver that he'll be able to overtake today is Tommy Unhola, and at the moment he has 13 laps to make that move, try and force an error on his Finnish rival and get past the position. So the clock isn't ticking yet for him. He just has to calm down, make sure he doesn't make another mistake, and I think that he'll be able to make that pass for P2.
Oh, and did Van Velsen have a mistake here, as he's now under threat from Richard Morin coming out of Alta. Morin looks to the inside as they plunge down towards Rivazza, and Morin not gutsy enough to try and take it in there.
No, it was Edward van Velsen who tried to move in Aqua Minerali, went a little bit wide, and that caused Benjamin Soko to catch up to him.
There you can see Zoko going around the outside into Alta. Oh, it's tough to do. Slowed up Van Velsen, something fierce. So as we come back live, that's going to put Zoko up to 8th, Van Velsen into 9th, and Morin stays in 10th for now.
Some heavy battles out on track. I'm currently looking at P6 and P7. Gary Thiel, like we saw before, is under heavy pressure of Tapani Linelotto. Gary Thiel, who made up 4 positions since the start and has shown how good of a defender he is, keeping several drivers behind and just not making any mistakes, not giving anyone else the opportunity to get by him.
And as that was happening, Zoko got a cut course penalty and lost 2 spots going through Tamburello. So that means Morin and Van Velsen now get their places back. You see Zoko on the tail of Morin for now. The Canadian trying all he can to retain this 9th place, looking at a nice top 10 points. 2nd place just won't cool down ahead of them, though, as Ove Trangrade continues to stalk the Finn of Tommy Unhola. Now, you keep talking about a Finnish rival. Is there much enmity between Norway and Finland up there?
I don't know if that's the case. I'm not a Scandinavian myself, so you should ask them after the race that.
Right.
They're certainly rivals on track, no matter which nationality they have. Yeah, a hard battle though, for sure. Over Trangrade just 2/10 behind him now. He is quicker going over the start-finish straight, but not quick enough to put his car side by side in the Tamburello corner. Unhola trying a slightly defensive line, and that causes Over Trangrade to have a slightly better exit there.
That's not the first time we've seen the Finn take to the middle of the road as they come up to Villeneuve. A lot harder to pass into this one, especially when Trangrade's that far back. Look at him close through the second half. A little bit tight on the exit, though, and that costs them some time. Now they weave their way through the hairpin, up the hill. Oh, it's tough to try and put the power down. You can see just how much Trangrade is sliding that car around, trying to find whatever he can. That Honda is wild today. Oh, and a big slide now from Unhola coming through Piratella. Are they going to dare to go too wide through Aquaminerale? Defensive move from Tommy, sticking his nose in. Trangrade tries around the outside, but just not enough, and all this fighting is allowing Matt Wood to make it a three-way fight.
Extremely courageous move from Trangrade there to try and pass him on the outside, carry more momentum through that corner, but just not able to do it. And like you say, Joe, Matt Wood is loving this. He made a mistake earlier in the race, but has seen his mistake almost erased, as he's currently only 1 second behind over Trangrade.
Now, this is a good chance for him to get back in a second where he started. They come out of the final corner. They've all separated just slightly, so I understand that we have a bit of a battle going on between Lino Luoto and Teal.
Yeah, still Teppan Linuoto is trying to get left, right, up and down to get past Teal, but he's not making it stick so far. Like I said before, Gary Teal is defending as hard as he's able in this Lotus 49. He's just not giving an inch of room to give Teppan Linuoto a chance to overtake him. However, Teppan Linuoto has more speed right now on the start-finish straight. He looks on the inside of the Tamburello, but chooses not to make a move, as Edward van Velzen behind him sends it in on the outside. That almost caused a crash between Teppan and Edward van Velzen. Just avoided each other, however.
Oh, that Australian smells blood. He tried it as well as he could. I think Lino Luoto, you would usually think maybe that was defensive, but I think he was genuinely surprised by the fact that Van Velzen was suddenly back there. And now he's on the defensive. Oh, braking, looking a little shaky for Edward, as now they climb up the hill, and it looks like Van Velzen incredibly close, but not close enough.
Yeah, especially Van Velzen, like you said, Joe, is smelling blood, because he knows that if he can get by Teppan and past Gary, he'll probably be able to create a gap and maybe work his way a little bit towards New Campy B5.
Van Velzen on a great run, starting at 11th, currently in 8th. Here comes Teppan, though, up into Alta, slipping inside of Gary Teal. He now gets himself into 6th, and Teal immediately under threat again, as Van Velzen looks to see if he can repeat the feat. Can he get through in Rivazza? He's going to take a look.
It's a difficult corner, though, Rivazza, to make an overtake in these cars, because before the little kink, turn 13, you already have to brake slightly, or at least let the throttle go a little bit. So to make a move in that corner is really difficult, because as well you want to have a perfect line as possible to get a good exit and a good run towards Tamburello. Van Velzen not able to put it side by side yet, but he's quite close to Gary Teal. But he sees in front of them Teppan Linuoto driving away now, as Edward van Velzen catches up so much. Oh, they hit each other slightly in the Tamburello.
Van Velzen must have a very different brake bias, because that's the second time we've seen him send it in deep. But I think that car is damaged, because here comes Zoko looking inside into Villeneuve, and he is going to slice through, getting himself into 8th.
Yeah, what you say is, I was thinking exactly the same thing, Joe, that Edward van Velzen is so strong on the braking. Maybe he has a setup set in such a way that he's able to be much more confident on the braking. He has a great line, however, out of Tosa, ducking immediately on the inside of Benjamin Soko and taking back that P8 position.
Club Australia and New Zealand versus Club Australia and New Zealand as they stay side by side at a Piratella. Neither one is willing to give up, and it's going to be Van Velsen who comes out, and second place under threat as Ove Trangarade, Tommy Unhola, and Matt Wood all together. Is that a slowdown for Trangarade as he lets Unhola go by, and now Wood trying to go around the outside of Ravazza, all three under a blanket, and none of them are willing to give up. Still all together coming out of the second apex. Unhola is going to get the best drive of them, but Johan, it is a drag race down the front stretch.
Yeah, Matt Wood was on the outside of Ravazza, so he has a slightly better exit and more speed going over the start-finish straight. I think he has got back P3 on over Trangarade. And Neil Kemp will probably like this and see his rivals get closer if they continue battling like this. But Tommy and Hola, it looks a little bit like he's holding up the other two rivals. But what kind of racing? Matt Wood back into P3, looking back now to P2.
Boy, throw dice on the table and you've had just as good of a chance of predicting the outcome of this battle. These three are going at it hard and they come together.
No. Over Trangarade just braking a little bit too late there in the Variante Villeneuve and just turning around Matt Wood. He waits a little bit in the gravel though to, as we see a replay at the moment, to give Matt Wood a place back. As you can see, just tips him around, and as well, like both cars get a little bit off the ground. That causes some damage.
As soon as these cars start to tangle tires, that just about ends your day.
Both cars in the pits as well.
Oh. Well, what this does mean is that I think we are going to see Tommy Unhola on the podium. Second place, and by 5.5 seconds over Neil Kemp. Now, the sad thing for Tommy is he's about 14.5 seconds back from McClarridge, but I'm not sure he'll mind that too much.
No, I think he will be able to really consolidate the rest of the race now, make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes and brings home that P2. But I also want to bring a little bit of attention to that other driver on the podium, Neil Kemp. He's currently 7 seconds in front of Tapani Lina Luoto with only 8 laps to go. Neil Kemp all the way from P8 to a podium position, Joe.
Consistency is paying dividends today. Just keep it on track, and that will help a lot. Well, that makes the closest battle now for 5th, because Gary Thiel and Van Velsen and Zoko have not separated. Edward seeing what he can do down into turn 1. This time he's not quite as deep on Gary Thiel. I thought I saw a little bit of a walk-up from Thiel there into Tamburello.
Yeah, Benjamin Soko is also closing up on the battle, but we see some other battles on track as well. For example, P9, I think it is. Simon Shaw, not that close as the battle in front, but Simon Shaw and Hideko Koivisto are quite close. Hideko Koivisto doing good business, however, Joe, for the Formula 2 Championship. I think he's currently the leader of all drivers on track in the Formula 2 Championship, so if it finishes like this, Koivisto will extend his lead in the Formula 2 Championship.
You are indeed right. A nice top 10 looking like for Koivisto. As now a couple of our top runners tumble down the order, handing more of those places over. So with that battle being as far apart as it is, I think we need to keep our eyes on Thiel, Van Velsen, and Zoko. They come up to Alta right now. Zoko at the tail of the train. Don't count out Richard Morin as well. If these three start fighting, I think he's close enough that he could maybe snatch a position or two. Speaking of close, here comes Zoko, trying to hound a mistake out of Van Velsen and into Ravazza. Even though he's a little shaky under the brakes, he's not going to give it away quite yet.
And you could see there by the run that Benjamin Soko had how important it is that your exit is correct. Edward van Velsen went a little bit wide on the Variante Alta, was 1 meter off the apex, and you just saw immediately how close Benjamin Soko could get in the braking zone. At the moment he's still in front of his rival, however, but Gary Thiel, I just have to say, Joe, I'm so impressed with the driver. He has been able to withstand all the pressure there today, as Edward van Velsen and Benjamin Soko get close once again in the braking zone, but not close enough to pass.
These three everyone keeps making those tiny little mistakes, and each of them tries to do something with it, but it's so tough to pass here in places. I really wonder if Van Velsen is damaged because of the way his car is driving now. He is all over the place in some parts.
There might be some damage, might also be that maybe he just tries some different moves, because what he has been trying so far on Gary Thiel hasn't worked. So maybe he's thinking like, I just have to try some different things. Maybe that will give me the opportunity, the momentum to make that pass for P5.
So we ride on board with Zoko. Wonder if we could get an overhead shot, because behind him, it is definitely a 4-car train now, because Morin has caught them. There you see him at the bottom of your screen. Through Alta one more time. Once again, going wide at the exit. That AstroTurf is slippery, and Van Velsen is learning just how slippery, because Zoko closes in. He looks to the inside into Ravazza, all the way to the inside, but he's too shallow, and that denies him the opportunity.
Yeah, and that gives the opportunity to Morin to immediately close up a little bit to Benjamin Soko. Benjamin Soko, who has a great run out of Ravazza, however, and can immediately put the pressure on Edward van Velsen. Edward van Velsen moving left and right to block him, but the Australian driver is able to put it side by side in Tamburello. Now, who has the biggest guts to brake as late as possible? I think it's Benjamin Soko. He dives on the inside and gets P6.
Oh, that was a long time coming. He had to work for that one. So despite all that, Morin not able to do anything with those two. Now we understand something might have happened to Andrew Ang. Let's see if we can get that replay up. Looks like maybe an incident into Ravazza. Here we go. Oh, no, this is into Aqua Minerale. Let's see if we can figure this out. Maybe he got a slowdown out of here. Well, looks like we aren't able to get it, but I can tell you that he did have an off in Ravazza going way wide. He was all by himself. He's since returned to the track in 14th, just mostly running by himself.
Now, another battle we haven't seen, because we have the really exciting battle for P5, 6, 7, and 8 between Thiel, Van Velsen, Soko, and Morin. Behind them, however, Simon Shaw and Hideki Kofisto, they're much closer than they were a few laps ago when we saw that battle. And also Raymond Smith is only 1 second away from them. So the battle for P9 is heating up as well.
There we see Simon Shaw, the UK&I driver. And as you mentioned, the Canadian Raymond Smith doing all he can to try and make this a 3-way fight for 9th as they come onto the front stretch. And this race has absolutely flown by with the action that we've watched. Only 5 laps left to go. If you're just joining us here, this is round 6 here at Imola in the Lotus 49 World Cup. As we jump back up to the closest fight on track that just will not quit. And Benjamin Zoko, while we weren't looking, has managed to get by Gary Thiel. Let's see, did this happen in Tamburello again? Yes, it did.
Yeah, just a better exit out of Ravazza, as you can see here, able to put his car on the inside of the corner. Gary Thiel doesn't defend that hard at least, and Benjamin Soko being able to go to P5.
Oh, but he has to defend from Van Velsen into Piratella, who almost puts wheels into the dirt under braking, but holds it together. Now, we keep saying Australian for Van Velsen, but it's Australia and New Zealand club, and I've made that mistake recently. I don't want to make that again. He could be from New Zealand. He could be from Australia. We'll find out after the race which is which. I don't want to get them screwed up yet again.
The one battle that we're currently not seeing on track because they're not that close yet is the battle for P3. Neil Kemp and Tapani Nuwoto are only a few seconds separated from each other. Tapani Nuwoto, who was 7 seconds separated from P3 a few laps ago, he's making giant leaps towards Neil Kemp. I think that if Tapani Nuwoto is able to keep the same lap times as he's currently doing, he'll be able to catch Neil Kemp before the end of the race.
Slow but steady wins the race. That's the mantra that Neil Kemp needs to remember. Consistency got him up into third. It can keep third for him if he can just continue to rifle off the laps. His last few, 140.4, 140.9, 140.5. Tapani's running 39.9, 40.8. Oh, Tapani's a little all over the place, actually.
Yeah, I was saying that, and then I saw the last lap time of Teppan Linuoto, and that lap time he actually made a mistake, so he lost 1 second. So if he's able to not make mistakes and make sure that he does those 39s that he's able to do, he will able to catch Neil Kemp. But otherwise, I don't think he will make it.
Well, I hope whatever timing and scoring that Neil Kemp has up, he's not looking too closely, because we should mention Tapani is a black stripe driver, actually. He's a world championship level. I'm wondering if that is in the VRS series or if, yeah, I believe that is in the tin tops for him. But obviously very fast in the open wheel cars as well. Oh, and Andrew Ang finds the wall. This is, where is this? Out of Villeneuve.
Almost the same as we saw earlier with Dave Price, just putting it a little bit loose in the Variante Villeneuve and just not able to control his car, able to turn to the right and just swings himself into the wall. Tough luck from Andrew Ang, but he is able to continue driving, however.
Been a bit of a race to forget for the number 16. If we could get back up to Van Velsen, he is once again doing all he can to try and get by Gary Thiel, and he has got a fantastic run out of Ravazza. This is going to be a great opportunity. If we could see another one of those late breaking moves, his Ricardo-esque style driving, we could maybe see a pass. Gary Thiel knows about it. He goes defensive into Tamburello. He's going to deny him for now.
Edward van Velzen chooses to brake earlier, get the better line and hope to get more momentum for the Variante Villeneuve. It doesn't bring him more momentum, however. He's catching up once again to the gearbox of his rival, but not able to put it side by side. And look in front, Benjamin Soko is driving away with it. I think Edward van Velzen is thinking, I have to make a move now, as he tries to go on the outside of Tosa to get close to Soko. On the outside, Thiel is a little bit cleaner, but Van Velzen is able to take more momentum with him.
I think he's got this now. If he can brake late once again, he's going to deny him the apex, slides it through Piratella. How about that for Van Velsen around the outside of Tosa? It's not often that you could see that one pulled off. That nets him a P6. This is a gutsy driver out there.
Impressive. Great move from Edward van Velsen. He's only 1 second behind Benjamin Soko, so P5 isn't away from him yet. Oh, as he gets really loose! Oh, he almost loses the car. Oh, he gets hit as well by Gary Thiel. Really spins him around.
Oh, just a little too wild. We've seen him get squirrely a number of times. We're going to ride on board Thiel. Just clips him, but I think since he gets him with the nose, he should be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. As you see it here, just almost able to avoid him, but just not enough. And Edward van Velsen falls all the way back to behind Hideki Koifisto in P10.
Well, Van Velsen suffers the commentator's curse like many a driver here on the Global Sim Racing channel. That praise only goes so far. Up at the top, nothing much has changed. Mick Claridge continues to rifle off lap after lap, and it's a whole 20 seconds now over Unhola. There he is on screen. Really haven't shown him much because there's just been not much reason to. He's been out by himself, circling around.
Yeah, almost 1 second quicker than his rivals. I think Mick Claridge really is a class apart here today. He was showing these lap times as well in practice, and he's just so strong out there. And with the absence of Michel Duvignon, he's doing great business in the championship for the Formula 1 championship, Joe.
Yeah, honestly, and we have no Billy Bob Wright today, no Michael Morrison. Ben Zoko's the only one of the top 5 who's here today. And Mick's slowing down, we understand? Must have had a slowdown penalty as he gets it back up to speed. This lap, let's see, a 142. You know, I suspect that was just a slowdown penalty for him then.
I mean, to be honest, he has a 20-second gap to Tommy Unhola. He can get several slowdown penalties and still be fine.
Well, he's taking the white flag. Like you said, he could cruise around this lap incredibly slow and still come away with the win as he gets a little loose coming through Villeneuve, testing the limits. Maybe just having some fun at this point. Got to be careful not to throw it away. Don't want to mansell it at this point. Basically a victory lap here for the Brit. Like we said, pretty much all of his rivals either didn't show or had a bad day today. It's going to be a nice points haul to increase that gap. They might have 2 drop weeks this season, but Mick Claridge, I don't think, is going to need them too badly. As he weaves his way up and out of Aqua Minerale, climbing up the hill towards the last chicane of Alta. This could be where he got that slowdown penalty last time. This time, though, nice and clean over the curbs. And then back down the hill through Rivazza, the track weaving back and forth between those big green walls on either side. 2 corners to go for Mick Claridge here in round 6. Around the last apex, smoothly applying the power. And as he comes to the line, Mick Claridge is going to take the win here at Imola.
Great race from Mick Claridge, well deserved, but also look behind him in P2, Tommy and Hola. That's not a driver we should forget anything about. He had a great race, really capitalized on the mistakes of the other drivers. And I think that after he gets a great run out of Rivage, he will finish P2. Great result for Hola.
You pinned him in the practices, one to watch, and that was a good call as he gets a podium. And Neil Kemp as well. Neil, I hope you come up and talk to us post-race because that was phenomenal. Going from 8th to 3rd, Lino Luoto follows him closely home, but not close enough as he gets 4th. 8th up for grabs, though. And that is Koivisto, Shaw, and Van Velsen all close together. But it's Shaw who's going to get 7th, Koivisto 8th, and Van Velsen at 9th.
P12 behind him, Tony Tuolis is still under pressure by Eugenio Massa. Eugenio Massa wants to try and get as much points as possible for that battle for the Formula 2 Championship, and no, not able to put it side by side in Rivage. Tony Tuolis finishing in P12 and Massa finishing his home race in 13th.
And correction, that was Shaw 8th, Koivisto 9th, and Van Velsen 10th. My timing and scoring get a little out of whack here at the finish. But with that, we're going to go to break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because on screen, we're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Imola. We just watched round 6 of the Lotus 49 World Cup. And Mick Claridge came away with the win, and I don't think there was ever any doubt that he would take it home. Just an incredible gap at the end, 20 seconds between himself and Tommy Unhola, who gets a great finish from 6th to 2nd. Same thing with Neil Kemp to round out the podium, going from 8th to 3rd. Leonard Luoto is ruining what could have been as he was gaining quick at the end, but unfortunately some problems early on sent him backwards, and his climb back only got him 4th. Ben Zocco somehow managed a top 5 despite being all over the place and in all kinds of battles all race long. He finished ahead of Gary Teal in 6th. Richard Morin behind them in 7th. Nice run from Richard. That's a pretty high finish for him. And Simon Shaw taking 8th, just ahead of the Finn, leading our AM Championship, the F2 Championship, Hideki Koivisto in 9th. Van Velsen, ruining what could have been more, takes a top 10. Johan?
A quiet drive, I think, out there for Raymond Smith, coming home in 11th, while not so quiet drive for Tony Tuolis, who was quite close to Eugenio Massa basically the whole race, but edged in front of the Italian driver to finish in 12th. Massa comes home in 13th in front of Andrew Eng, and we saw him crash at one point, but he still managed to put his car home in 14th. Don Good and Johnny Bell, they come home in 15th and 16th. And then we have the 3 drivers who had to visit the pits at least once during the race. Dave Price crashed, but actually managed to get back onto track and come home in 17th, overtaking Matt Wood and Ovid Trangerate, 18th and 19th.
Winners waiting in the wings for us to talk to him about what is probably one of his more dominant wins. Mick, are you even awake? Because you made it look like you could do that one in your sleep.
Oh, hi, Joe. Yeah, that was a bit lucky, that was, mate.
Yeah, the battles behind you certainly helped out with the gap, but regardless, even the gap in qualifying looked pretty phenomenal. I saw in the chat that maybe you used a couple little tricks to help you get a little pace there.
Yeah, when I say lucky, it was mostly the weather. That I'm not sure if any of the other guys are changing their setups for the weather. You have to if you want to stay sort of quick. Your car dies if you don't change anything on the setup. I mean, you can go right down on the power ramp, and I sort of guessed the tyre pressures. I went for normal tyre pressures in qualifying. What I did it in qualifying was I did normal tyre pressures, but I did a really, really slow outlap because I didn't want to burn them up on the outlap. So that's what got me the pole time there. But yeah, you can do quite a lot to the car in the cold weather. We just never had a cold session at all, you know, through all the times I've been practicing. So it was a bit of a weird one, you know, to have a cold session like that in the race.
A bit of a cold snap like we're having here in Colorado today. We actually have snow today, believe it or not. But it wasn't a perfect race for you. You had one slowdown that we did at least catch there on the penultimate lap. Was that Alta that bit you?
No, do you know what it was? It was when I saw the gap sort of pulling out at the start, I just thought, all right, I'm just going to keep going and going and going as hard as I can to sort of get a clear gap in case I get a slowdown, because I knew I would get one. And I just sort of got into the habit of pushing really hard, and I was pushing really hard through the whole thing, you know. I don't know why, I just did, but that was me today.
Well, and you took home P1 with authority. Congratulations on a win, Mick.
Yeah, cheers, Joe. Thanks a lot.
That was our winner today, Mick Claridge, here in round 6. Up next, second place. We're making a habit of talking to him, this time for a podium finish. Tommy Unhola is going to be talking to Johan.
Yeah, I caught up with Tommy. Tommy, how good were you out there today? You finished in P2. How was it out there?
Yes, it was good race. It was pretty hard as well. I heard you just Mick say that you got to change setup, and I actually know what you have to do or can try to do. But I actually forgot that, and we're driving with my hot temperature setup. It was for 44 degrees Celsius, so but it was not so bad. It was drivable. Result was not bad either, but still 20 seconds to Mick, and he was probably coasting there and having just drive to end. And so I still need a bit more time to lose guys behind me.
Yeah, Mick just said to us that he was pushing the whole race, so he wasn't coasting at all. But still, you finished P2. At one point, you were having a good battle with Matt Wood with over Trangerate. Tell us a little bit of your point of view. How was that battle for you? Was it difficult to make overtakes here and easy to defend?
Yes, it's very difficult to make overtakes here. In practice, there was a few bit slower cars, and some places it doesn't matter if you. It feels like you go on higher gear and much faster, but you just can't make a pass. And no, Owe had a really great pace and bit better than me, but I could put car in right places. Except, did you catch that on Variante Alta? Is it on top of hill, the chicane? What happened there? I have no idea, but was it clean and good?
I think it was. I cannot remember. Yeah, we caught the end of it. I think it was clean, yeah, but I would have to see what we just saw because there was so much battling, including with you all the way through the race. So much things have happened there. It was a great race to see, at least for you, Tommy. If I look at the championship standings, you actually move up to third in the championship at the moment. You're doing really good so far. Are you confident that you can keep that third position for the rest of the season?
Well, I don't know actually. Who is there? Is Michel still behind me? And so if he makes a last of races, he's definitely faster than me, usually on mixed pace or faster. So I still can't catch him, but maybe Ove and others, Benjamin and William didn't have. William was not there today, and Benjamin didn't have so good race. So I think I can keep them behind, but we have to see what's going to happen. And I'm actually going to miss next week. I think I have to look for more or less animals. So not sure if I can race. So it's still long season ahead. So better to look what happens than guess.
Exactly. Well, luckily you have a few drop weeks to maybe cancel out the week that you'll miss. Thank you for talking with once again, Tommy and Hola. Let's hope you'll visit us on the podium a lot more often.
Yes, thank you. Hope so.
That was Tommy, Mikael and Hola coming home in second position. Now, Joe, I have heard that you caught up with another Finnish driver. You caught up with Tapani Linnaluoto.
Absolutely. The Black Stripe driver has joined us after his fourth place finish. And that, unfortunately, was a recovery drive of all things. Tapani, it looks like that incident on lap 1 through Tosa really set the story for you.
Yeah, that was completely my fault. I missed the braking point and almost bumped someone on the rear there, but I managed to just ruin for myself and just roll behind everyone and try to pick up from there.
Now, we're used to seeing you in a much higher downforce car over in the Nissan. Is it difficult to switch back and forth between two such drastically different cars, jumping here to the 49, or is it an easy transition for you?
Well, it's definitely not easy. This car has much higher slip angles than any other car. It's very tricky to get the car there and keep it there throughout the corners. And it's really tricky to get into the car. And I don't think I've yet managed to make that transition quite.
Still, fourth place is nothing to scoff at in a series like this. It could have been a podium. You were just a little over a second behind Neil Kemp. I assume you were pushing pretty hard to try and run him down at the end?
Yeah, but it's really hard to nail those lap times consistently, and it's really easy to make mistakes of a couple of tenths and a tenth in another corner, and suddenly you're half a second slower than on the previous lap, and it's not easy. If with a good drive, I should have been battling with Tommy for second place, and I'm pretty lucky to get to fourth place after some trouble with Dave, Matt, and Uwe there.
Now, I understand you have your pro license. Is that in the tin tops over in the VRS series?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not racing there at the moment. I think they just have forgotten to take it away from me. But
okay.
Yeah, it was from there.
Gotcha. All right. Well, again, congratulations on a fourth place. It is one up from where you qualified, and we hope to see you here in the Lotus 49 World Cup some more.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
With that, we're going to close up today. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to Ben Zocco and the entire Lotus 49 community for bringing GSRC back for yet another season. We've been here for over a year now, if you can believe that. It's been a joy getting to watch these guys race in this retro machinery. And of course, additional thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. We also want to thank Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjed, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Now, next race, we are going to Brands Hatch. You talk about a difficult place to pass. That is narrow and tight through there. That'll be Saturday, April 28th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.